Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if neglected Naruto fall in love with Venolana. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Acoustic Ghost and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1, Out of Love. Location, Gremory Territory. Place, Gremory Main Manor. Time, 1900. A figure stormed out of the massive palace that was her home. Radiating off of her was a reddish-black aura that destroyed everything it touched. The woman was quite beautiful, a beauty that many in the underworld would have loved to take to their bed were it not for the fear of angering the Beale and Gremory houses. She stood at 5 feet 8 inches with a Coke bow figure and quite large E-cup breasts, purple eyes currently narrowed in anger, shoulder-length brown hair, wearing a white dress with a deep V-neck, black straps, knee-high boots and a pair of white bicep-length gloves. Sitting outside the glove was her wedding ring, and even though she looked to be in her mid-20s, but in truth she was probably close to 1,000 years old. Time lost its meaning when one was a devil. This woman was Venolana Bale, now ex-wife of Zydus Gremory. After years of begging, pleading and doing anything and everything in her power to stop it, her husband had basically sold their only daughter to the Phoenix clan for power. She would not see this union, though it didn't help matters that the beta of her husband's harem had been making moves against her to have her busted down to nothing and said, harem. It was working too. Other women of her husband's harem began to lose faith in their harem big sister and started to confide in Gloria. Even Zydus began to seek her counsel over his primary wife. She would sooner die than allow such a thing to happen. She refused to be the laughingstock of the devils in the underworld. Ripping off her wedding ring, she crushed it with ease. This was the signal that would allow her to leave. Years ago a magician forged a pact with her that would allow her to leave the underworld and those linked to the nexus of the dimensional gap. No one would be able to find her. A black portal opened. Before she stepped, though, it would be nearly 10 years, when her own daughter would make her plans to free herself from Riser Phoenix, that she would be seen again. Location, Konoha. Place, Training Ground 10. Time, 1200 June 1st. A young man of 14 groaned in annoyance as he struck the training dummy several times. He wasn't very tall for his age, standing at only 5 feet 4 inches, spiky blonde hair, sea blue eyes, 3 whisker-like marks on each cheek, wearing an orange jacket, orange pants, and a black shirt. Around his head was a headband with a leaf on it. This was Uzumaki Naruto, the container of the Buji Kyubi no Kitsune. His sensei Kakashi had basically left him in the lurch for the last Uchiha. Now all he had to train was his skills in shadow clones, his subpar taijutsu, and his trap-making skills. If he didn't find a sensei soon, he would be in trouble. His opponent was a man who had no problems trying to kill his own cousin. And if that wasn't bad enough, that girl from the hidden sand village Gaia wasn't a joke either. She had crushed Rock Lee's arm and leg with no remorse. He was going up against monsters that he had no chance in hell of beating. He either needed a master to help him train, or a freaking skill that no one would be able to beat. As if the gods themselves were listening, a portal opened up in the training ground. Naruto jumped away and gripped a kunai in a revere grip. He blushed as a woman stepped out of the portal, and if Naruto had to be honest, she was even more attractive than the crazy snake lady. She looked around before spotting Naruto. You there, child, can you tell me where I am? Asked the woman. Naruto frowned at the woman before throwing a kunai at her. The woman narrowed her eyes as she caught the kunai in her hand. What she didn't notice was the explosive tag on the base of the kunai before it exploded. The explosion was a grade 3 and could take out an unaware Chunin. The smoke cleared, and to Naruto's surprise she was standing there unscathed. The woman frowned, before she vanished and appeared before Naruto and lifting him by his collar. That was very rude of you, young man. When a lady asks a question, you answer in the manner befitting of a gentleman and not a ruffian, said the woman. Naruto gripped her arm, before flipping slightly and throwing a kick at her head. The woman lifted her arm and stopped the kick with ease. Turning, she threw Naruto across the training grounds. Naruto glared at her from his upside-down position as he crossed his fingers for his signature move. Shadow Clone Jutsu, yelled Naruto, summoning 10 clones. Venolana raised a brow at this. Cloning was a pretty rare ability back in her home. She could only think of maybe 2 people who could do it. Raising her left hand, she threw a slash, unleashing a blast of red-black energy at the clones. Her raw, unfocused power of destruction. All of the shadow clones popped with minimal effort on her part. Venolana looked all over for Naruto, but didn't see him. She sighed in annoyance, before she jumped into the air, avoiding an uppercut that came from the ground. Naruto was shocked that she avoided the earth release uppercut. Sure, it was modified version of the earth release headhunter, but Naruto had become quite good with it, and even been able to come up with other ways to use it in combat. Even Sasuke had problems avoiding the attack. Naruto quickly ran the hand signs. Before he could finish, Venolana released her control over her ability to fly, before stomping Naruto in his chest and sending him to the ground. Naruto landed on the ground in a crater and spat up blood. Are you quite finished, young man? Asked Venolana as she hopped off Naruto's stomach. Naruto tried getting to his feet. And not yet, said Naruto, standing up and getting his hands up preparing to fight. Venolana sighed. Young man, while I admire your will to keep fighting, it would be pointless at this point, said Venolana. Naruto smirked. Even if it's pointless. I won't give up because that's my ninja way, said Naruto. Venolana looked at Naruto with a smile, before vanishing and tapping his forehead. She put enough force in the attack to knock him out. As he fell, she caught him in her arms. She smiled. She could remember when she started training Sasuke in combat. Sure, her husband was strong, but her children got most of their magical and combat abilities from her. As she laid the young boy down, two powerful auras appeared in her range. Turning around, she found herself looking at two men. Both of them were elderly, but still young compared to herself. The younger of the two men stood at about 6 feet 2 inches with long white hair that reached the ground, wearing a long-sleeved gray shirt, a red kimono vest, green pants and a headband with the kanji 4 oil on it if she wasn't mistaken. Honestly, her child Rias was too much of a Japanese otaku. She blamed Sasuke for this. He was also quite strong enough to give Grafia a challenge at least. Next was the other man. He was definitely older, and was well on his way to meeting a Grim Reaper. He was shorter than the other man, standing at 5 feet 10 inches. His skin was tanned, and his hair white. He wore a red and white robe with a hat on his head that had the kanji for fire on it. In his hand was a pipe. While he was a tad older than the other man, he was still very powerful. Maybe as strong as Sasuke if he was using 30% of his full power. Either way, neither man was strong enough to defeat her if she used all her power. Miss, I'm going to have to ask you to step away from my godson, said the man with the oil headband. Oh, have I offended? Asked the brunette. You snuck into my village and hurt one of my soldiers. That should tell you what you've done, said the older man with a glare. Venolana gave a small bow. Forgive me, but I do not know who you two are. I am Venolana Giari Bale. Former heiress of House Bale, said Venolana. I see. I am Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage. This is my former student Jiraiya of the Sannin, said Sarutobi. Venolana-san, I've trailed all over these lands and even to a few lands beyond, and I've never heard of a House Bale before, said Jiraiya while writing in his notebook. Venolana smiled. That's because I'm not from this world, but the underworld. I am what you would call a devil, said Venolana as she allowed her wings to sport from her back. But instead of devil's wings, 2 black translucent wings came out of her back. Jiraiya and Sarutobi dropped their respective items as Venolana looked at her new wings. Oh my, this is new, said Venolana. Chapter 2. I'm just a kind lady. Location, Eastern Konoha, the Red Light District. Place, Naruto's apartment. Time, 12:45, June 1st. Jiraiya placed Naruto in his bed. Before making his way back to Hiruzen and Venolana, both of them sat down on the torn furniture that Naruto had. Venolana looked around with a glare on her face. Chipped paint on the walls, rotten counters. This was not a place for a child to live, and to make matters worse, it was spotless. Where were the piles of clothes, the dirty magazines, the trash piled high to the sky? God only knows how many times she had to send in a team of 30 or 40 maids to clean up after her son and even her grandson after they made a mess. Thank God for Grafia managing the estate and Sasuke. Venolana could only shudder at the thought of Sasuke's marrying his childhood friend Citri Serafal. Did she just think God without pain? She would have to look into this. Same thing with her wings. Could it be the results of a transdimensional shift and relocation since she was an outsider to this dimension? I find this apartment rather disturbing, said Venolana looking around at the condition of said apartment. You'll have to forgive Naruto's lack of cleaning skills. He is, or rather was, a ward of the state until about 6 months ago when he became a soldier under my command, said Hiruzen, refilling his pipe and lighting it with fire chakra. Then it is the state that is lacking, I fear. This apartment is cleaner than anything I've ever seen in my life despite how it looks. It's also rather cozy. And I'm a woman of nobility, so I'm used to seeing everything clean and spotless. No, I find it disturbing that such a young man lives in the poorest district in your village, and despite being a shinobi isn't allowed to live in your military's barracks. On top of that, I'm sure that he still gets an on-call stipend when he's not taking on missions and is instead on duty to either patrol the borders or work within your village. I'd wager that he makes enough to at least afford a decent 1-bedroom house out in the military district if such a thing exists. Also, I assume that as a member of the Sannin, you Lord Jiraiya have a home somewhere in the village that he could have stayed in and used while you were away. I assume that he knows nothing of your relationship, and you could have easily given him an extra income to supplement what he didn't have, said Venolana, taking her cup of tea and drinking it. Sarutobi raised an eyebrow at this woman. Sure, just looking at the houses in the area you could tell this place was run down, but the fact she had figured out what a shinobi makes when not on missions was something terrifying to the old man. He had done all he could for Naruto, but his hands were tied because of the Civilian Council, Merchant Guild, and the Shinobi Council. During the days of confusion following Minato's death, those factions scraped and clawed together as much power as possible. While Hiruzen had power, those factions put a checks and balance system in place. Were he just a few years younger, it's not as simple as that. 14 years ago we suffered a disaster that brought the village to the brink of destruction. The leader of the village at the time, my successor and predecessor, rolled into one. The 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato sealed a beast that was several times stronger than any Kage inside of a newborn baby. That baby was Naruto, said Hiruzen, taking a puff of his pipe and blowing smoke. That is an S-rank secret that has a law attached to it. Anyone who tells anyone under the age of 18 will be killed if they so much as breath a word of it to the younger generation. The only person who can tell someone is Naruto, as it is his burden to bear. Venolana had to bite her lip to stop herself from releasing her full power at the foolish elder. A lot of good your law did, Lord Saratab. Especially if those who fought such a powerful create passed on their hate to their children and outsiders, said Venolana, huffing. Hiruzen aged 10 years before her eyes. I tell myself the same thing every time I look in the mirror and wonder if I could have done more for Naruto, said Hiruzen, thinking of the boy he called grandson. You have to understand, we were still at war at the time, and we couldn't afford to have a divided force. We were still in the middle of a war at the time as well. We were still fighting with the hidden village of clouds and at a ceasefire with also following that chaos. The enemies of Konoha were at our gates. We couldn't afford to lose any more power than we had lost at the time. The things we did, there are no excuses, said Jiraiya. 1. Venolana crossed her legs and arms under her breasts. I take it that Naruto is related to this Namikaze Minato somehow? Asked the woman. He is. Naruto is the only known heir to the Uzumaki clan and the land of Edding Tides, though his mother Kushina, who herself was the child of a daimyo, and the last legacy of Minato. Naruto is his son, said Jiraiya, taking a sip of his own tea. Jiraiya, warned Hiruzen, it's no use in hiding it, sensei. If she could figure it out, then anyone who isn't blinded by hate, then anyone can, said Jiraiya. Hiruzen put his pipe back in his mouth and took a pull of his pipe. You are right, of course, Jiraiya. But I'm afraid that unless you swear alliance to the village of Konoha, you can't leave with that information. That information is a SSS rank secret that only 6 people are privy to, said Hiruzen. A secret that he can't learn until he makes Chunin. What is a Chunin? Asked Venolana as she constantly filed away information that she was going to look into. A Chunin is one of the ranks of our military. All shinobi have a chance at Chunin regardless of which of Konoha's specialized branches they chose to go into. The ranks are Genin, Chunin, Special Jonin, Jonin, Kage. There is another branch known as ANBU, but they are mostly Chunin and Jonin who act as a special force for the Hokage myself. They are also known as the dogs of the Hokage, said Hiruzen. How many Kage class shinobi reside in the village currently? Asked Venolana. There are 6, including myself. One of them is Jiraiya and the other 4 I will keep to myself for security reason, said Hiruzen, taking another pull of his pipe. Fancy way of saying you don't trust me, said Venolana. Nothing personal, but you did call yourself a devil, and while I would love to take you at face value, I must protect my people at all costs, said Hiruzen. Venolana took in this information and began to process it in her mind as she extended her range of sensing to the absolute max. So far she managed to find 3 of the 4. One was deep underground about 2 miles away. Another was off in the distance about 6 miles away, close to the large monument, and finally the last one she could find was off somewhere relaxing if his energy was anything to go by. The last one was beyond the edge of her senses. 2. So what are the ways that one can get promoted to Chunin? Asked Venolana, cutting her sensing range. There are several ways, but there are 3 accepted ways. The first is a recommendation by one of the branch heads with at least 2 heads giving the okay, a field promotion during a mission/war. Those types of promotions are rare nowadays. The final way is to get a recommendation in the Chunin exams from the nobles and heads of other villages. That is the more accepted way. A person can also jump from Genin to Jonin or Special Jonin based on purely power, and that falls to the Hokage and Shinobi Council, said Hiruzen. 3. Chunin exams? Asked Venolana, filing all the other information away. It's a replacement for war basically. Twice a year in different locations. It just so happened that Konoha was responsible for the exams. We actually just finished the second exam 2 days ago, said Hiruzen. It's one of the reasons I'm here. I'm more or less a deterrent for anybody stupid enough to cause trouble. If only Tsunade-chan was here, then we'd really be cooking with gas, said Jiraiya, smirking at the thought of his old teammate, and if he was honest with himself, love of his life. What are Uzumaki-san's chances of victory at the moment? Asked the brown-haired beauty, as she filed the name Tsunade away for later. I'm afraid that his chances are slim from the start. Not only is he going up against last year's Rookie of the Year, but his opponent could be either this year's rookie or the youngest daughter of the Kazekage. Kakashi, Naruto-sensei has taken his other student Sasuke away for training and no one in Konoha can train him. I would do it, but my duties to the village have had me tied up for over 14 years and I can't repair my relationship with him in just a month. Mathematically his chances are only at 9%, said Jiraiya. 27 days, said Venolana, catching both men's attention. In just 27 days his chances will be 100%. I'm just going to need a copy of his current file that lists his skills, dem chakra levels, and hand-to-hand skills. Both men looked at each other before looking back at her with a strange look. Venolana just smiled at them. Location, Konoha. Place, Training Ground 10. Time, 0600, June 2nd. Naruto awoke slowly. B was quickly awake when he found himself hanging upside down. He looked down and realized that he had 2 chains wrapped around his wrists that weighted a freaking ton, and he was over a pit of fire 40 feet in the air. About time you've awoken, young man, said Venolana. She wore a pair of white kung fu pants and a red and white wushu top. She pulled that watch from her pocket. You've been out for 17 hours 27 minutes, and 12 seconds. Quite a lazy boy you are, Uzumaki-san. What the hell, lady? Yelled Naruto, struggling with the chains. Venolana glared at Naruto, before vanishing and appearing before him. She let out a yell as she threw 100 rapid-fire punches into his gut, each punch using only the amount of power that Naruto could handle at the moment. Naruto did his best not to scream in pain, but upon her stopping and floating in the air he threw up. Let us not make that mistake again, Uzumaki-san. After all, I am a kind lady when treated correctly. You will address me as Lady Bale when in the comfort of our home, or Sensei when we train. You must earn the right to call me by my first name, Uzumaki-san, just like I will have to earn the right to call you by yours. By the way, my name is Venolana Bale. What the hell do you mean by our home? Yelled Naruto only to get kicked in the gut. Venolana gave Naruto a harsh stare. I take it you're the learn my lesson the hard way type. I'll be sure that is one of the first things I fix about you. Manners are a must in my presence. That means no cursing. Cursing shows that you are uncivilized and I won't have it. Am I clear? Asked Venolana. Yes, sensei, but what do you mean our home? Asked Naruto, though gritted teeth holding back his anger. Venolana nodded to herself, glad that the lesson was sinking in even if it was slow. It's just as I said, our home. I've already talked to Lord Hiruzen and we've come to an understanding. Until the Chunin exams are over you are in my care, and trust me, I do not pull punches when it comes to training. If you ever get the chance to ask my son Surzex, and he can tell you horror stories about me, said Venolana with a smile. Naruto looked at her. What do you want me to do now? I want 1,000 sit-ups. After which you will flip around and give me 1,000 pull-ups. If you don't complete them in the next 2 hours you are facing to get another beating and then doing them again, said Venolana. You're a fucking sadist. Yelled Naruto only to get another 100 punches to the gut. No, I'm a lady, said Venolana as she pulled out a book on manners. While we're on the subject, I think I need to teach you manners. Lesson 1. The proper way to speak with people depending not on station, but manners. Naruto looked at her with a glare, not realizing what kind of hell awaited him for the next 27 days. And cut. I hope you guys enjoyed this chapter. Next chapter will be Naruto vs Neji, and a little bit of backstory into Naruto and Venolana's life for the 27 days of training. Chapter 3. Genius vs Worker. Location, Konoha. Place, Stadium Stands. Time, 1050. The stadium was packed with people from all over the elemental nation as they came to watch the 7 young warriors in the arena come to do battle. Venolana Curran had a seat closer to the group known as the Rookie 9. Or at least the members of the group who didn't make it into the finals. Venolana was actually impressed that rookies with only 6 months of experience were able to make it to the finals. Venolana had changed her clothes to blend into the background so no one would suspect her of being an outsider. She wore a short-sleeved, white kimono that reaches down to her legs, with slits along the left side that stopped just shy of her hip side and a revealing neckline, a red sash tied around her waist, white stockings and heeled boots. Around her neck was a forehead protector, but instead of the hidden leaf logo she had a simple spiral with Naruto's last name on it. She had gotten several looks from people ranging from confusion to rage, but not one was brave or stupid enough to challenge her after she was attacked by a Chunin about a week ago. Let's just say that she had gained her own nickname in Konoha, the She-Devil. How ironic. What do you think of the Demon Brat's chances? Asked a Jonin not too far from her. My money is on the Hyuga kid. I have it on good authority that he's going to sweep the entire competition, said a female Chunin if her power level was anything to go by. No way. It's totally going to be Uchiha-san. With the copy ninja training him plus that Sharingan. He's going to be a monster one day. Hell, I'd even bet he would be a contender for the seat of Hokage, said the first Jonin. Venolana smirked. Officially, betting pools existed that had people aiming to make some pocket change, but Venolana took all of Naruto's saving, which was only a meager 20,000 yen, and placed it on him, winning the entire thing. She had looked at the charts and the favorites to win were Hyuga Neji, Uchiha Sasuke, and Tsubuyoku no Gaia. Each had a 3:1 chance of winning. The low-enders were Naruto and Temari, each having a 99:1 chance of victory. The changes of making to the finals were about the same. She planned it out accordingly. While the main money was for the whole shebang, she managed to acquire a few funds from a few gangs in the red light district, and used them to go match by match. Over the last 27 days she had changed his approach to things and taught him what he seemed to be missing in education. It helped a lot that during the 4th day of training they had discovered that shadow clones sent information back to their creator upon destruction. This sped up Naruto's training considerably. Combined with his ability to regenerate, not heal but regenerate quickly, allowed her to up the training she had already had planned for him. However, she didn't have time to teach Naruto everything that she planned to teach him. No, that would take several years, and by then she planned to, well, she wanted to keep that to herself for the time being. Having lived for close to 1,500 years, she learned several things over the course of her long life. She had even had an interest in kickboxing, wrestling, and other combat sports. She also happened to have a rather deep knowledge of magic. It was one of the reasons she had trained Surzex personally and not allowed her husband to do so. She had intended to train Rias, but Surzex insisted upon allowing Grafia to do it. While she did miss her chance to train her only daughter, she could still train Naruto. One thing was for sure, Naruto was about to rain hell down upon those he was about to do battle with, and that was only the start of the things that she had planned for those who had hurt her student. Location, Konoha. Place, Stadium Arena Floor. Time, same as in the stands. Naruto stood at the end of the line. The last month had been hell thanks to that lady Venolana or Vene-sensei as he had taken to calling her. She had mainly focused on having him learn how to split his physical energy from his spiritual energy. One of the main reasons Naruto had such piss-poor chakra control had been due to the fact that he simply had too much spiritual energy, while his physical energy was wild. Impress wasn't even a 1/4 of his spiritual power. And that still wasn't taking Kyuubi's power into account. Thanks to learning how to separate the two energies, Naruto now had access to 3 separate powers. That had taken a week and about 1,000 clones to separate them without the 1-minute drawback. After which she taught him the basics of spiritual manipulation and body manipulation. He learned a few attacks, but for the first round he was to stick to his body manipulation, shadow clones, and basic ninja arts. Naruto had changed drastically over the last month. He had actually grown in height from 5 feet 4 inches to 5 feet 7 inches, making him the same height as Choji was. His muscles were more defined than before, and if the looks he was getting from females on his way to the stadium were any indication, he was quite attractive. He wore an orange muscle shirt, black forest green cargo pants, a matching leather vest, black gloves, black sandals, a combat belt with an extra kunai pouch and a special holster on his left side, and his headband wrapped around his head. Naruto rubbed his head, put a hand on his hip, and felt the sword that was there. The sword in question was shaped like a kunai. The blade was about 18 inches long. In between the handle on the blade was a circle of 5 marble-sized orbs: fire red, wind green, water blue, lighting yellow, and earth brown. The steel of the blade was blue. "Uzumaki Naruto," came a voice from his side. He looked to his right to see Sabuke no Gaia looking at him with a strange look. Gaia was probably the most beautiful girl he had laid eyes on if he was honest with himself. She was the same age as him and the others in his class. She stood at 5 feet 1 inch with a petite figure, firm B-cup breasts, with dark green eyes, long red hair that went to the middle of her back, but was pulled into a ponytail. On the left side of her forehead was a blood-red tattoo with the kanji for love, a long-sleeved brown blouse under a gray leather armor corset top, a white sash tied around her waist, black short shorts with a red half-skirt. Parts of a fishnet bodysuit could be seen, black sandals, shin guards, 2 gold studs in both ears. Finally across her back was a gourd that was about the same size as she was. This held her main weapon, her sand that had bathed in the blood of countless foes. Naruto was on guard as she approached him. "What do you want from me, Gaia-san?" asked Naruto, turning to her. "Mother, she says that you've changed, that you're no longer hindered by that dark purple energy that held up back before. That you've become more dangerous, more appealing as a mate than something to prove my existence. She says that should you survive the battles to come in our own fight, that I should mate you," said Gaia without a hint of embarrassment. "What do you think?" asked Naruto, looking her in the eye. Gaia crossed her arms over her chest. "I have no feelings about it either way. If you are strong enough, then I will consider mating you, otherwise you're just another body to feed, mother," said Gaia, walking away. Naruto looked at her back side and whether or not she knew that she was swinging her hips. "I suggest you focus on our coming match, Uzumaki, and not a piece of tail," said Neji. Naruto looked at Neji with a glare. "I haven't forgotten about you, Hyuga Neji. You and I will settle up soon enough for what you did to Hinata-chan," said Naruto, turning away from him. "A failure trying to protect another failure." "That is amusing," said Neji with a small smirk. Location: Konoha. Place: Satium Kage booth. Time: 1050. How Hiruzen hated sitting down on this uncomfortable chair. After 40 years of sitting on the throne, and close to 9 Chunin exam appearances, he still was uncomfortable in this chair. Hiruzen looked to his left to see Raza sitting there. Raza was a powerful man, and was even a member of the 4th generation of Kages along with Minato and I. He stood at maybe 5'9", 5 to 10, had auburn hair, dark eyes, and had a very stern look on his face most of the time. He wore loose-fitting green kimono with a white collar, and the signature hat with the kanji for wind. Currently said hat was sitting on a pedestal reserved for the hats. Hiruzen's own hat sat there, although he covered his head with a black bandana. On Hiruzen's left was the leader of Oto, a man Sarutobi had never had the pleasure of meeting. He wasn't a very tall man, maybe the same height as Naruto or shorter, tousled neck-length white hair, a strong chin, and dark purple eyes, wearing black wristbands with thick purple rope wrapped around his chest over a tan shirt, and black trousers. He was quite young, only being 24 years old, but was already a Kage-level ninja. If Hiruzen's memory wasn't failing him, then his name was Genyomaru. "It is a good day for compaction, wouldn't you agree, Kazekage-dano?" "Genyomaru," said Hiruzen, taking a puff of his pipe. "Indeed it is. Shame that your only son had to drop out of the competition, Kazekage-dano," said Genyomaru. Raza glared at Genyomaru. Konkuro was unfortunately injured when he was training with his sensei a few days ago, and would not be able to attend. "What about you, Genyomaru-dano? You only have one shinobi in the competition." Genyomaru laughed. "Dosu is a personal project of mine. He is quite a strong young man," said Genyomaru. Hiruzen stood up. "As much as I would love to talk shop all day, gentlemen, we need to move this competition along," said Hiruzen as he ran though a few hand signs. All he did was use a voice amplification on his voice. "Ladies and gentlemen and honored guests, I Sarutobi Hiruzen greet you on this fine day as we watch 8 young souls compete for the honor of their village and their nation here today. With that out the way, let the final stage of the Chunin exams begin. Hiruzen sat down as one of his personal guard handed him a glass of water. Genyomaru gave a soft chuckle. Hokage-dano, you have quite a ways with words, said Genyomaru. Hiruzen chuckled. Thank you, my young friend. I'm an old hat at this, said Hiruzen. Raza shook his head at his fellow Kage. Perhaps it's time to pass along your hat again to someone younger, old friend, said Raza. Hiruzen chuckled. I still have a few years left in me, said Sarutobi. Location, Konoha. Place, Satya Marina floor. Time, 1100. Naruto and Neji stood across from each other after the new proctor gave them the rundown of the rules. He looked between them before dropping his hand. Neji didn't waste a second before he charged at Naruto with the intent to end this in one strike. Naruto didn't have time to even blink as he was hit in the chest and sent flying. Neji smirked, but it quickly left his face as Naruto exploded into a massive smoke screen. Shadow clone jutsu. Heavy smoke screen, said Naruto above Neji as he threw a kunai. A single kunai is nothing to me, Uzumaki, yelled Neji as chakra covered his hand as he prepared to deflect the kunai. Naruto ran no hand signs. Shuriken shadow clone jutsu, yelled Naruto as that one kunai became over 100. Neji's eyes widened. There was no way he was going to be able to block all that. Not unless he used his trump card. He had no choice. He began to spin his body like a top as a dome of chakra extended outwards, protecting his body from the hailstorm of kunai. Naruto landed on the ground several feet away, as Neji's momentum came to a stop. I can't believe a clanless orphan forced me to use the 8 trigrams. Heavenly rotation right off the back, said Neji though gritted teeth. That's the result of hard work. Unlike you who has had support, and was hailed as a genius since the day you were born, I've been alone all my life, said Naruto. By the way, you're quite careless. Neji looked at Naruto before looking around him. The kunai were still there even though they were shadow clones. He looked back at Naruto, who had a smirk on his face before snapping his fingers as the original kunai burned red for a second before exploding, setting off a chain reaction. That created a moderate-sized explosion. Once all the smoke cleared, Naruto looked around for Neji, before sighing in annoyance. He turned to the trees and could already feel his killing intent radiating from there. Naruto turned to Neji and got into a stance. It was time to start round 2 of their little fight. Location, Konoha. Place, stadium stands. Time, same time. The members of the Rookie 9 not in the tournament, Tenten, and Asuma and Kurenai looked on in shock at what had just happened. The fight had only just begun and already Naruto had pushed Neji into using his strongest defensive jutsu. What the hell? Yelled Kiba as he watched his friend and preliminary opponent practically dominate this match. Since when was Naruto this strong? Since when was Naruto Baka this strong? Asked Ino, shocked to see the dead last beating the previous year's rookie around. Naruto-kun has gotten strong, said Hinata blushing as she looked at her longtime crush. He looks quite handsome, thought Hinata. Sakura herself couldn't say anything seeing her teammate the dominate one in the match. I didn't know Naruto was so strong. Are you really surprised that my student is winning this fight? Asked the woman walking up to them. Venolana looked at them all. 2 weak girls, 2 slightly stronger girls, a dog-kin, a rotund boy, a girl who with training could probably match any of Graphia's peerage members, and finally the one who had the Kage class power. He looked like a much younger version of Hiruzen. His son perhaps? Kiba, Asuma, and Choji all had nosebleeds. They were quickly smacked upside the head. The girls looked at the woman and tried not to get jealous of the woman and her rather large assets. How the hell did a woman have such large braids? Not to be rude, but who are you? Asked Kurenai, quite upset at her not-secret boyfriend. I have no problems with that. My name is Venolana Bale. I moved to Konoha from the western continent. I had only been here for a few days when I ran into Naruto-san. He was struggling with some training, so I took him under my wing. He took to my training like a bird in flight, said Venolana smiling. But why did you do it? Asked Sakura in confusion. Naruto isn't the best shinobi around. In fact, I say that you wasted your time training him, miss. Venolana smiled. We shall see, said Venolana as she turned back to the battle. Location, Konoha. Place, stadium arena floor. Time, same time. Neji rushed from the trees, Byakugan blazing in rage. Naruto threw a punch, but Neji dipped past it and hit Naruto with a palm strike that sent him skidding backwards. But Neji wasn't finished as he blurred thought hand signs. 8 trambrams, vacuum palm, yelled Neji, sending out a pure wave of wind/chakra at Naruto. Naruto twisted out of the way, but still caught it on his arm. Naruto gripped his arm, but that was all Neji needed, taking that as his K. Neji rushed at Naruto and slid into the stance for his ultimate offensive jutsu. You are in my range, 8 trigrams, 64 palms, yelled Neji. Naruto's eyes widened before Nei attacked. Naruto managed to stop the 2 palms, 4 palms and 8 palms, but midway those 16 palms Neji's hands became a blur as he hit Naruto. 32 made freeze in pain. Upon the 64 palm Naruto was pretty much screaming in pain, before Neji thrust the palm into his gut and sent him flying. Naruto landed on the ground in pain. Genma-san called the match. He won't be getting up, said Neji, turning from his opponent. You hit like a bitch, groaned Naruto as he stood and put a hand on his stomach. I got to admit that I was a little scared. How are you standing? I pushed enough chakra into your chakra points to put you down for at least a day, growled Neji. Naruto chuckled. It's thanks to my unique ability, said Naruto. Unique ability? A bloodline limit? Asked Neji, having never heard of a clan with such an ability. Naruto chuckled. Not quite. A bloodline limit would imply that I inherited something from my clan. As far as everyone knows, I'm a damn orphan. No, a unique ability is just a skill that can be passed from parent to child and can evolve into a bloodline limit. I'll give you an example. The Yamanaka clan can enter other people's minds, bodies, and even read the deepest parts of a person's brains. But why is that? It's because over time their brains evolved to handle that stress. If you or me tried that, we'd die of a brain hemorrhage before we even hit the ground. I guess my mom or dad had a stronger than average healing ability while the other had higher reserves of chakra. Thanks to them combining in my body, my unique skill isn't healing, but regeneration. I don't know how strong the regeneration itself is, but it takes a lot of chakra to do, and even for a chakra monster like me, that's pushing it, said Naruto. Naruto did leave out a critical bit of information. While his body did regenerate, it was mostly thanks to the fact that he was using physical energy to do so. Thanks to a weakness in the Byakugan to only detect chakra, Naruto was safe from that little fact, but his physical abilities suffered for it. He would have to be careful. While it wouldn't be noticeable at the moment, a prolonged battle wouldn't work in Naruto's favor. Naruto put his fingers together and created several clones. Neji prepared to defend himself from the clones, but was quickly stopped as 4 hands came out of the ground and held his legs in place. Before he had a change to do anything, Naruto's clones rushed him. He threw out an attack at them and managed to dispel a few, but was ultimately outnumbered. Naruto pushed chakra into his arm and legs before rushing Neji. Naruto jumped into the air. Shadow Clone Power Punch! Yelled Naruto, hitting Neji across the jaw and nearly shattering it. Thanks to the clones holding him in place, he didn't move, but that was the whole point of it, as one clone began to flash before exploding. Naruto kept away from the flames, waiting for them to die down. Neji jumped backwards out the flames and glared at Naruto, breathing heavily as his skin was burned in several places and his left eye closed in pain. How dare you disgrace the noble Hyuga clan! Yelled Neji, his rage flowing thought. Naruto frowned. I didn't disgrace anything. I'm just kicking your ass and you're being too much of a baby to take it, said Naruto as he crossed his arms. Neji growled. I'm a baby? I can't take it? I've lived my entire life at the heels of the main branch of the Hyuga clan. I, Hyuga Neji, heir to the branch family, have been cursed by this clan, yelled Neji before he reeled his emotions and before he removed his handband and showed the seal on his forehead. Insert one tragic backstory. Neji replaced the forehead protector as he glared at Naruto with unshed tears. What do you know about living your life with a seal? A curse over your head. There is one truth in this world, Uzumaki, you cannot deny your station, your fate, yelled Neji. After hearing what was said, Naruto's eyes shadowed over as his hand balled into a fist. You better get ready to grit those teeth, because now I'm pissed off, yelled Naruto, flaring his chakra. Naruto and Neji charged each other, and what followed was one brutal taijutsu match that seemed to show that Naruto wasn't just holding his ground against Neji, but was pushing him back. Neji was losing and he knew it. He needed to finish Naruto off. Gathering all his chakra to his right hand, Neji thrust the palm at Naruto. 8 trigrams, vacuum wave! Yelled Neji. Naruto managed to grab Neji's wrist and force the attack into the air. Neji then tried a simple gentle fist strike, but Naruto forced that one up. Naruto was stronger than Neji, who struggled to free his hands. Let's see you grit those teeth! Yelled Naruto, showing that he wasn't going down so easily. The blonde thrust his head forward and sent Neji to the ground with a busted nose and gritted teeth. Naruto jumped into the air, before spinning and dropping an axe kick into Neji's gut using pure physical energy, amplifying his normal attack power. Neji yelled in pain as he spit up blood. As Naruto rolled off him, Naruto stood up and looked at the coughing as his gripped his stomach. How is it that a clan-less orphan bested the prodigy of the Hyuga clan? Asked Neji as he looked at Naruto from the ground. Naruto sighed before looking at the sky himself. For the longest time I've been alone, Neji. Because I was born on the day of the Kyuubi attack, I'm seen as a bad omen to the village. A reminder that Konoha, the strongest hidden village in the elemental nations, was brought to its knees by a creature simply just doing what it wanted to do. Even with Ain Nei-chan, Tenshi-san, Hirojikan. Even with them I was alone. Not because they didn't want me, but because they still had duties to their real families, something I couldn't take away from them. And then about a month ago someone came into my life. She didn't treat me like that. She treated me like a person. Lady Venolana Bale, without even knowing it, saved me from my own darkness. Find someone who can save you from that darkness, Neji, because the next time you go after Hinata-chan, your family, you won't like the consequences, said Naruto as he turned away from Neji. Genma smirked at Naruto's back. Well said, kid. The winner of the first match, Uzumaki Naruto. Chapter 4, Dosu vs Shino. Location, Konoha. Place, Stadium Arena Floor. Time, 1120. People were shocked that Naruto had won his fight so quickly. While the action was hard and fast, the battle was over in less than 15 minutes. The rookies were especially impressed with the way their former classmate had handled himself against Neji. Unreal, said Tenten, shocked that her teammate had been defeated. Yeah, no kidding. Who knew Naruto Baka was so strong, said Ino. That's not it at all, said Asuma, catching their attention. What do you mean? Asked Kurenai. That kid managed to defeat the Hyuga prodigy with only shadow clones and taijutsu. He bested a student of Might Guy, the strongest taijutsu user in Konoha. Even I can't beat him in a 1-1-1 battle. Uzumaki put in a lot of late nights to win this fight, and keep his promise, a girl named Hinata, said Venolana, not missing the blush on the indigo-haired girl's face. While everyone chalks a battle up to a person's ranking or even their birth, a lot of people forget that no one starts out strong. We all come into this world defenseless and weak. The proper training and the right mentor can take a farm boy and turn him into a king, or even king of kings. Wise words, Venolana-san, said Kurenai. I've never had a conversations with Uzumaki-san, but I know that he works hard according to Kakashi-senpai. Couldn't have said it better myself, said Asuma. This gave the rookies something to think about, but it was pushed to the back of their minds for the moment, when the pink and blonde-haired girls teased their friend Venolana, chuckled before leaving the area. Thanks to the odds of the bet, she just made a small fortune. The odds of Naruto winning against Neji were 50:1. She took 5,000 yen, placed it all on Naruto to win. She had managed the entire fortune of House Gremory for a long time, and while she may no longer be dealing with money that was in the trillions, this was a good starting point. By the time the Chunin exam was over, she and Naruto would have more money than the head of the Konoha Merchants Guild and the Kurama clan combined. Location, Konoha. Place, Stadium Kage booth. Time, same as above. Raza tried to hide how impressed he was with the Uzumaki boy. He remembered fighting alongside a familiar person during the Third War. A Uzumaki Kushina, if he recalled correctly? She had been strong. Hell, Raza didn't want to cross her on a battlefield. While Minato was hailed as the hero of Konoha during the war, Kushina had been known as a monster thanks to her skills in swordsmanship, sealing, and those chains of hers. That boy was impressive, said Genyomaru. His skills with the basics were quite impressive, and even the use of the second Hokage's original shadow clone jutsu was impressive. I would say that he has mastered it, and all its variants beyond even the second Hokage. Hiruzen chuckled. To be honest with you, Naruto-kun learned that jutsu all on his own. He still has a ways to go before he masters it. He stalled with it after only a few weeks figuring it out. I gave him a scroll on the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu, and the Exploding Shadow Clone, said Hiruzen. Quite foolish of you to personally give a shinobi scrolls on skills, said Genyomaru. Hiruzen chuckled. Is it Genyomaru? I'm not long for this world as it is. I might have 20 more years left in natural lifespan. I'm investing in the future, Genyomaru-dano, said Hiruzen as he looked at Naruto, as he made his way back to the contestant box. Location, Konoha. Place, Stadium Contestant Box. Time, 1135. As Naruto entered the contestant box, everyone looked at him. Shikamaru and Shino walked up to their fellow rookie mate. You don't do anything halfway, do you, Uzumaki-san? Asked Shino. You're troublesome, said Shikamaru, yawning. Now we either have to put on a show or take a dive. Naruto smirked at his friends. While Sakura was hailed as the smartest kunoichi and smartest person of their generation, that title actually belonged to Shikamaru. He was just a lazy ass who didn't like to do more than he needed unless Yoshino-ka-san kicked him in the ass. And while Sasuke was hailed as the strongest shinobi of their generation, Shino was honestly close second, or was. Shino was always neck and neck with Sasuke in points during their time there. The only thing that stopped him from being rookie was that his taijutsu was quick, lackluster. In fact, the highest ranking male in taijutsu in class was Kiba. That was impressive, cutie, said a blonde-haired girl walking up to them. The young woman in question was 2 years older than them. She stood at 5 feet 4 inches with solid C-cup breasts. She has teal eyes and sandy blonde hair, which is gathered into 4 consecutive pigtails, a single light purple-colored, off-the-shoulders garment that extended to halfway down her thighs, with a scarlet sash tied around her waist. In addition to incorporating fishnet worn over her shoulders and legs, specifically on her right calf and her left thigh, she also wore her black forehead protector around her neck. Across her back she had a massive iron fan. Her name was Temari. She was Gaara and Kankuro's older sister. My elder sister is correct, Uzumaki. That was indeed impressive. Mother is screaming at me now that I must mate with you, said Gaia. Naruto smirked at her. One step at a time. We haven't even had dinner and a movie yet, said Naruto. As Naruto and Temari laughed, Shikamaru sighed in amusement. Shino's shoulders were moving in a silent laugh, and Gaia tilted her head to the side in confusion. As they were having a grand old time, the last competitor was glaring daggers at the Konoha shinobi. Kinuta Dosu was the only sound shinobi to make it to the finals. Not even his siblings made it. While Kin and Zaku were not his blood siblings, they grew up together in the same village, at least until bandits burned it to the ground. The leader of the bandits had a thing for children. Male-female didn't matter to that man, he had no soul to do the things he did to them. At least until he started passing Kin around the camp. An 11-year-old girl surrounded by close to 40 men every day, it was hell. For nearly 4 months they begged and prayed to Kami to put end their lives. Every few weeks they would see a new person enter the camp, but just as quickly leave, as the bandits either beat them to death or grew tired of them, but never Kin, Zaku and Dosu. The trio were well on their way to killing themselves by way of poisoning that Kin managed to get her hands on, at least until they were stupid enough to get high and drunk off of a big score and let their guard down. The trio, after one of the longest, roughest nights of their life, went to each and every goddamn sleeping bandit and slit their fucking throats in the middle of the night. After that trauma, they made their way to the nearest village, which just so happened to be Otokage. At that point, the trio were allowed into the village and treated by a therapist. The trio were each found their own way of dealing with their problems. Zaku's mind had warped to the point that he was a psychopath. Kin found comfort in the arms of some red-haired girl, and Dosu himself found comfort in serving the village. After all, what woman would want him after the damage the bandit leader did to his face? Will Sabuke no Gaia and Sasuke Uchiha come to the arena floor? Said Genma, chewing on his senbon. Gaia turned into a tornado of sand and floated down to the arena floor. A few moments passed, but Sasuke was absent. After a few minutes, crowd grew restless as Genma looked to Hiruzen. Hiruzen seemed to be in deep discussion with the other Kages, before he turned to his bodyguard/aide for the moment and vanished. A moment later, the aide, a chunin named Rado. So what's the deal, Rado? Asked Genma, turning to his friend. Hokage-sama, as well as Keisuke-sama and Genumura-sama, have come to the decision that the match between Sabuke no Gaia and Uchiha Sasuke will be postponed. However, Uchiha Sasuke has lost the opportunity to advance to chunin because of this little stunt, said Ranado before vanishing. Genma smirked. The match between Sabuke no Gaia and Uchiha Sasuke has been delayed. As such, we will move on to our next match. Will Aburame, Shino, and Kinyuta Dosu come to the arena floor? Said Genma. Gaia frowned at not getting a chance to kill the Uchiha. But she could wait. After all, she was nothing if not patient. She left the arena floor, leaving the boys to their battle. Genma barely waited a few minutes before allowing the two young men to go to battle. Dosu rushed at Shino and tried to the match quickly. He managed to close the 40-foot gap instantly, and raised his tight arm, the one with the gauntlet, and thrust it at Shino. Sound release, sound bomb, yelled Dosu as the gauntlet released a noise comparable to a bomb. The sound wave released had many in the arena covering their ears from the deafening noise. The Shino in front of Dosu exploded and turned into several small beetles. Shino jumped out of his hiding place and glared at Dosu with his blazing red eyes. His sound wave had been strong enough to break his glasses, and while the Aburame were known for keeping a pair of reinforced glasses, that sound wave was much stronger than Shino was predicting. It was a good thing he had prepared over the month for battle. After fighting Zaku, who hailed from the same village as Dosu, their skills and abilities were worlds apart. Aburame style, beetle armor jutsu, said Shino as blue armor slowly appeared on Shino's chest, back, and arms. Dosu glared at Shino from his single eye as he ran the hand signs. I won't let you finish. Sound release, harmonic blast, yelled Dosu, holding out his gauntlet, and unleashing a soundless blast of what appeared to be wind. 1. Shino didn't see the attack, but he felt it as it hit him as his armor creaked under strong vibrations and sent him flying. Dosu didn't stop as fired several more blasts, all hitting Shino several times and sensing him to the ground in pain. Shino slowly rose to his feet and looked at Dosu, his body shaking so badly that he wasn't sure that he would be able to get out. Shino quickly released a swarm of defense-based beetles as he threw up bile. He knew that the sound users were strong, as evident by his battle with Zaku and Shikamaru's battle with that girl Kin. Even with said knowledge, he had no idea that sound jutsu were so powerful. 2. Vibrations, asked Shino, sweating from his forehead as he wiped his mouth. Dosu looked at Shino. Correct. Since the human body is made up of 70% water and vibrations slide though easily enough, I just adjusted the acoustics of my attack. Instead of hearing anything, all you're getting is the pain. Sounds travels through the air by vibration. The faster the vibration, the higher the pitch, the stronger the jutsu I can use with sound release, said Dosu. Shino hadn't just been sitting around the whole month collecting new bugs or just learning new basic Aburame jutsu. Shino had signed a contract that his mother had that allowed him to summon a few insects to him. These insects were exclusive to the contract, but require that he be strong enough to handle their demands. Shino bit both of his thumbs and quickly ran the hand signs. Aburame summoning style, 1000 lash bug, and hard armor bug, yelled Shino as he wiped the blood on both arms. 3. A poof of smoke appeared on both his arms before everyone saw what appeared on his arms. On his right arm was a massive centipede that was easily 10 feet long and 2 feet wide with massive legs, and there were 2 massive jaws that were blade-like, comparable to that of a sword, and on his left arm was a green bug that was shaped like a massive shield. Location, Konoha. Place, stadium seats. Time, same as above. Ino, Sakura, and Venolana all shivered in digest as they looked at the massive insects that Shino had summoned. Kurenai and Hinata were able to hide it better since they were his sensei and teammate respectively. They were still freaked out by this though. Kurenai-sensei, what is that? Asked Ino as she hugged her best friend/rival. Shino once told me that he was working on a more advanced style that only few in the Aburame clan have ever seen before. I think the only living shinobi to ever use the Aburame summoning style in action is Hokage-sama, said Kurenai. Even so, that is highly disgusting, said Venolana, with the other girls agreeing with her. Location, Konoha. Place, stadium arena floor. Time, same as above. Shino didn't wait even a second before charging at Dosu. Dosu throw and punch that Shino used the armor bug to block the punch and would even admit that he heard a satisfying crunch of bones. Dosu jumped back and opened his palm for another sound blast, but Shino wasn't going to allow it as he threw the lash bug at mummified genin. Dosu ducked to the side, but the blades cut his bandages, making them fall to the ground. Dosu got out of his couched position and turned to Shinobi, showing his face. The entire left side of his face was burned badly, showing that his eye had healed over closed, never to open again. His hair was black and was cut short. Other than the horrible burns, he also had several gashes along the right side of his face. Your face, said Shino. Dosu chuckled. A gift from the bandits I was captured by as a child. They hurt me and my teammates badly. I won't go into details, but this is the result of me prioritizing Kin and Zaku above myself, but in recent years we've allowed our missions to become our life, said Dosu as he took his headband and used it to cover the more destroyed half of his face. Now enough talk, fight. Dosu charged at Shino and threw several kicks and only left-handed punches. Shino noticed that he was sparing his right hand, but according to his friends he was building up chakra in the gauntlet. He was preparing for an endgame move. Dosu did a high spinning kick that was blocked but raised his right hand. Shino saw this and raised his left. Snap! Boom! A small explosion followed by a shockwave ripped through the entire arena and blew dirt and grass all over the place. Genma shielded his face from flying debris. Genma waited till the air started to clear to see one figure standing and one figure on their knee. When the dust settled fully, it was Shino on the ground with blood leaking from both ears and Dosu standing, but his right arm was torn to pieces with it seemingly burned and broken. You can't hear me at this moment, but you've lost this fight. I've ruptured your eardrum and thrown your equilibrium out of balance for at least a day. Give up, said Dosu. Shino looked at Dosu and was grinning as he held his hand in a hand sign. Aburame style, great insect pillar, yelled Shino as he slammed his hands on the ground as several of his personal hive came out of the ground and started to quickly drain the rest of Dosu's chakra. 4. Cheyenne was forced to release his attack as he collapsed to the ground. Dosu fell to the ground, barely awake himself. Gunma walked up to the two boys and looked at them before sighing. Neither combatant is able to continue, so I am forced to declare this battle as a draw, said Gunma. People yelled out objections, but that was quickly stopped by Hiruzen unleashing a burst of his chakra. Do not dishonor those two young men's performance by these foolish objections, yelled Hiruzen, allowing his anger to show. Showing just a glimpse of the man he used to be. No one said anything after that as Aburame Shiba entered the arena floor, as did Zaku and Kin. Kin was wearing a kimono, while Zaku was wearing pants and a vest with his hands tapped up to his elbow. He helped Dosu to his feet alongside Kin. Your friend fought a good fight, said Shiba as he threw his son over his shoulder. Zaku looked at the downed Shino before clutching his hand. I'm proud of my friend, my brother, and when your son awake and tell him that I look forward to the day that we cross paths again, said Zaku. Shiba said nothing as he took his son away to get treated at the Aburame compound. Thanks to their unique bodies, they had to have medics and doctors trained specifically to treat them. Kin and Zaku lead Dosu away to the medical hall to get treated. Midway there he slowly woke up. He looked at his two friends. As Dosu, Kin, and Zaku arrived in medical hall, they sat Dosu down in the cot close. Neji was still sleeping. As Dosu was sat on a cot, he slowly began to cry. Zaku-kun, Kinchan, forgive me for failing you both for a long time. I've allowed my guilt of those days to fester for too long. Forgive your foolish childhood friend, said Dosu as he covered his face. Kin took his hand away from his face and gave him a light kiss on the lips, tears in her eyes as well, before turning to Zaku and giving him a similar it. She pulled both of them into a hug and arm around both of them. Dosu Niken, Zaku Niken. Forgive me for being too weak to keep up with you two, said Kin as she began to sob. Zaku began to cry as well. He didn't say anything, he hugged his friends, his family, not saying a word. The trio just sat there and hugged and cried. Years of hurt, years of pain, finally came crashing down on them. Chapter 5, Lily of the Desert, here comes. Location, Konoha. Place, Satadam Kagebox. Time, 1135. Genumura smiled as he watched his subordinates help their fallen comrade out of the arena and to the medical area. He was quite proud of those three genin. Ever since they showed up at his village 5 years ago, they came into his village asking for food and shelter. He didn't have a problem bringing them in. They proved to be a worthwhile investment in training them. I must say that Dosu-san put up a good fight and showcased the power that the Sound Village is capable of, said Hiruzen. Aburame-san was quite powerful himself. I've never heard of the Aburame summoning style, said Genumuru. My father told me that such a style existed during the Warring Clans era. I honestly thought that he was lying at the time, said Raza. Sarutobi let out a small laugh. I saw it once in my lifetime. It was Shiba-san's father that showed it to me. However, it was quite the sight to see. I had no idea that young Shino was learning that deadly style. He has a promising future ahead of him. Maybe a member of our tracking division, said Hiruzen. My own child is next in the battlefield. Temari is my eldest and one of the most promising young kunoichi we have in Suna. I hope that she doesn't disappoint me, said Raza. It would be a pleasure to watch her in battle. Kazakage-dano, said Genumuru. Location, Konoha. Place, Stadium Contestant Box. Time, 1140. Shikamaru sighed in annoyance as he watched the Suna girl float down to the arena floor. As Temari landed on the ground, she turned to Shikamaru and closed her fan. She had an intense look on her face. Looks like it's your turn to go fight Shikamaru, buddy, said Naruto with a smirk on his face. Hold on, I'm not going out there. Nope, not doing it, said Shikamaru, about to forfeit. Naruto wasn't having it, and pushed Shikamaru, who fell into the stadium. Be a man and take your ass kicking like one, you fucking bum, yelled Naruto. Shikamaru landed back first in the arena as he glared up at his friend. Damn you, Naruto, yelled Shikamaru. If I get out of this alive, I'm kicking your ass, you troublesome blonde. People began to yell at Shikamaru to get his butt in gear. He could even hear his own mother encouraging Temari to kick Shikamaru in his ass. Shikamaru sighed as he looked at the clouds. He wondered if clouds had to ever deal with annoying things like this. He was only vaguely aware of Temari charging at him. Troublesome woman, said Shikamaru, taking out 2 kunai. Pay attention or you just might die, yelled Temari as she was above Shikamaru with her folded fan, using it like a club and just pounding the ground, kicking up dirt. Hey, I didn't say start, said Genma half-heartedly. When the dust settled, there was a small hole in the ground and Shikamaru was standing on 2 kunai that he threw into a wall. His hands in his pocket and smirk on his face. It doesn't matter if I become a chunin or not, but there is no reason a man should lose to a woman in a battle like this. Let's do this, Temari-san, said Shikamaru with a smirk on his face. Temari glared at Shikamaru, before grabbing her fan and unfolding it to show 2 moons, before she released a point-blank gust of wind at him that kicked up dust. When it cleared, Shikamaru was gone. Temari got a surprised look on her face as she looked around before smirking. This guy is quick to run away, thought Temari, no letting her guard down. Shikamaru was hiding in a tree, just looking at Temari. Nor is there any reason a man should rough up a woman, thought Shikamaru. But I don't want to be roughed up either. You can thank my mom for that, you troublesome woman. As the fan user and the shadow user were making their plans, everyone else were quite ready to see a fight and bloodshed, if Ino's cheering was anything to go by. As this was happening, Shikamaru took a moment to admire the clouds above him, wishing he could be one at the moment. Temari saw him and grew angered that he was taking this match, taking her so lightly. She wasn't some wallflower. She was the child of a Kage, a proud daughter of Suna, and she wasn't going to let some tree hugger get away with such disrespectful actions. Wind release, wind scythe, yelled Temari, fully unfolding her fan and unleashing massive cutting winds that sliced up trees and even cut Shikamaru's forearms. When the attack stopped, the only left was a dust cloud. Temari looked into the dust to see if Shikamaru had made a move. A black shadow creeping along the ground at high speed caught her eye, forcing her to jump backwards. The blonde-haired woman landed, and her eyes widened as she felt that she was caught in the shadow. Only for the shadow to stop short. Once the shadow retreated, she took her fan and drew a line. 15 meters, 32 centimeters. That's the maximum effective range of his jutsu, thought Temari as she looked at the kneeling dark-haired shinobi who was already huffing slightly. Shikamaru was already proving that he wasn't really in the mood to be beaten, but he was far from out of the fight. Only a few people knew that Shikamaru had an IQ of over 200, but that wasn't all he had. Thanks to such a high IQ, he had a fairly decent understanding of jutsu creation as well as concepts that his family had once thought would be amazing jutsu. For instance, the shadow strangulation jutsu was the closet thing to a battle jutsu that the Nara had. Asuma and his father had worked with Shikamaru over the month to finish a jutsu that had been thought up by the 6th head of the Nara clan, a jutsu that each head worked on until the 13th generation of Nara. Now here he was, the 16th generation of one of the most powerful clan alliances, and still stuck in a support role with only his brains. Well, not for long. Since I don't have the motivation to win, I'll let my shadow do the talking for me, said Shikamaru with a small smirk. Location, Konoha. Place, Stadium Spectre Seats. Time, 1144. What does he mean by that, Asuma-san? Asked Venolana, having gathered during the fight that Asuma was his sensei. Shikamaru is one of the smartest kids in Konoha, said Asuma. What do you mean smartest? I had the best test scores in the academy? Asked Sakura. You may not know this, but his score was only bad because he was too lazy to really do the test. I managed to scope out his actual intelligence, and it's over 200, said Asuma. And now, thanks to my help along with his dad's, he has all the weapons needed to win. T200, said Kurenai, shocked hearing about the lazy boy's intelligence. This battle just got interesting, said Asuma, smiling at his student. Location, Konoha. Place, Stadium Arena Floor. Time, 1145. Shikamaru put his hands together in a weird hand sign as he closed his eyes. Temari watched him, but quickly came on guard as a pair of yellow eyes opened up at the edge of the shadow. Shikamaru opened his own eyes and smirked. Nara secret style. Demon Shadow, said Shikamaru as his hands went to the familiar Nara hand sign. The shadow emerged from the ground and took form. It looked like a slender humanoid deer with 2 arms, large claws on each hand and large horns on the top of its head. It roared as it looked at Temari and flew at her. Temari's eyes widened as it swiped its claws at her. Temari managed to block the attack with her fan as she tried to open it, only for Demon Shadow to knock the fan away and send Temari flying. Temari landed on the ground with a thud and let out a small scream of pain. She opened her eyes and gasped as the Demon Shadow was about to attack her from above. Temari rolled out the way of another attack, as the Demon Shadow plowed into the ground and began to claw at her several times. Temari stopped rolling and flipped backwards. As the blonde-haired young woman was spinning in the air, She reached into her kunai pouch and drew out 2 smaller hand versions of her fans that were tipped at the end with blades before opening them. Wind release, twin tornadoes, yelled Temari, flicking one fan and then the other, creating 2 small tornadoes. The 2 tornadoes hit the demon shadow head-on and seemed to disrupt it. Shikamaru was forced to release the jutsu as Temari retrieved her main fan. Shikamaru a kunai before throwing it at Temari. Temari dodged the kunai, but was immobilized barely a second after moving. What the hell? Asked Temari as she looked down and saw that her shadow was attached to Shikamaru's. Shadow possession jutsu complete, said Shikamaru as he let out a sigh. Man, this is a real pain in the ass. How? Growled Temari with a fierce glare at the Nara. You're right and wrong about the range of my jutsu. Without the shadow of the wall to boost my shadow possession jutsu, my normal range is just north of 10 meters, however with Demon Shadow I can go as far as 20 meters. But it's easily destroyed at the moment, however once he's destroyed I keep the extended range for upwards as 10 minutes. Now all that I need to do is figure out what to do with you, said Shikamaru. Temari glared at Shikamaru in anger. Finish this fight, yelled Temari. Shikamaru smirked. Alright Genma-sensei, I forfeit, said Shikamaru. The entire stadium went quiet. Temari looked at Shikamaru with annoyance. Shikamaru sighed as he rubbed the back of his head as he counted down the seconds till he was going to hear the ill-fated words. That and his mother was going to kick his ass. Oh well, it was a good life while it lasted. Maybe he'd be reincarnated as a cloud. What? Yelled the entire stadium. Why in the hell would you quit when you had me dead to rights? Asked Temari. Shikamaru just rubbed his head with the laziest look ever. Don't get me wrong. I've come up with over 200 strategies that could drag this battle out for the next hour, but unfortunately I've just about run out of chakra. Demon Shadow is the strongest jutsu I have and I can only use it one time for about 1 minute. It just takes too much chakra, said Shikamaru as the shadow possession ended. Genma smirked. You got some style, kid. Winner of the 3rd round by forfeit, Sabuki no Temari. Temari growled in annoyance as she put her fan across her back and left the arena floor. Once Shikamaru left the stadium, Genma announced the next match. The match everyone was waiting for. Gaia vs. Sasuke. Gaia decided to take her time and walk down to the arena floor. Just as she arrived at the floor, a swirl of leaves appeared and there stood Hatake Kakashi and Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke wore a black bodysuit that stopped at his knees, black sandals, black leather straps around his calf tape and leather straps around his left arm, and beige elbow pads. Sorry we're late. We got lost on the road of life, said Kakashi smiling at the people. Location, Konoha. Place, stadium spectator seats. Time, 1148. Ino and Sakura both got hearts in their eyes as they looked at their Sasuke-kun enter the arena like a total badass. Choji munched on his chips in annoyance at the prince of assholes as Kiba growled, they prick. Who is that? Asked Venolana less than impressed at the boy. That's Uchiha Sasuke. He's the last loyal Uchiha to Konoha after the massacre that claimed the lives of the entire clan 7 years ago, said Asuma. I take it there's more to the story that you're not telling, said Venolana as she looked at Sasuke and felt a mass of demonic energy from him, specifically his neck. The entire clan was killed by his own brother. Uchiha Itachi, said Kurenai. Tragedy either breeds greatness or insanity. It's hard to tell what path this Uchiha is on, but whichever one he takes it will lead to a shift in the village, said Venolana. Chapter 6. Genryumaru's Secret. Invasion. Location, Konoha. Place, stadium arena floor. Time, 11:47. Naruto jumped into the arena and walked up to Kakashi and Sasuke. He frowned at them as they turned to him. Sasuke with a small smirk and Kakashi with an eye smile. Hey Naruto, sorry it took us so long. So how did your match go? Asked Kakashi. Naruto glared at Kakashi. I won my match, no thanks to you, Kakashi? Growled Naruto. Both Sharingan users were shocked to hear that Naruto had won his fight. Kakashi more so because he had left Naruto with Aibatsu, or that was his plan at least. Was it something Kakashi regretted doing? Yes, but not too many people were willing to train Naruto due to the fact that he had the QB sealed inside of him. Kakashi would have trained Naruto himself, but he was the only shinobi in the village besides Danzo and Hiruzen that could take on Orochimaru with a chance of winning. Aside from that, he was the only person in the village that could train Sasuke in the use of his Sharingan correctly. Kakashi had many regrets. He didn't want Naruto to be one of them. Oh, you found a sensei to help you? Who was it? Asked Kakashi smiling. You can met her yourself. We have to head to the stands as it is, said Naruto turning to leave the arena floor. Naruto, said Sasuke making the Uzumaki stop in his tracks and turn to him. I hope you didn't slack off during your month. Once I'm done with that sand-using bitch, I'm coming for you, Do. Come and get these hands if you want them, Sasuke. I'll be waiting for you if you beat Gaia, said Naruto as he and Kakashi left the arena floor and went to the sands. Sasuke turned and looked at Gaia as she landed next to Genma. About time you showed up, Uchiha. I was starting to get bored. Did anyone ever tell you it's rude to keep a lady waiting? Said Gaia. Sasuke smirked as he activated his Sharingan. Sorry I was late then. I'm ready whenever you are, babe, said the Uchiha. Location, Konoha. Place, stadium spectator seats. Time, 1148. Kakashi and Naruto arrived next to Sakura and the others just about the same time Lee and Guy appeared. Lee could have been considered as the strongest taijutsu user in all of the Genin and Chunin ranks in the village. However, over the last month he had gone through a slight change. His hair was longer and no longer reminiscent of Guy's own bowl-cut hair. It was actually shoulder length. He stood at about 5 feet 9 inches and wore a white kimono top, black pants, and his right arm and right leg were in a cast. I can't believe that Neji-kun was defeated so easily, said Lee, thinking that the strongest genin in the village could be beaten easily. Believe it, bushy brows. I beat him like a fucking war drum, said Naruto, grinning. Venolana cleared her throat, making Naruto stiffen, a reaction everyone noticed. Ino and Sakura were impressed that the woman who said she trained Naruto was able to put him in line. Choji chuckled slightly at his friend, while Tenten glared at Kakashi, was also impressed as he had tried and failed for the last 4 months to install some type of proper forum in Naruto. Naruto was a good kick, but rough around the edges. Kakashi turned to the woman and looked at the woman who claimed to be Naruto's sensei. She was attractive. Kakashi would say that she put the 4 heims of Konoha. Kurenai had an exotic beauty, Enko had a crazy beauty, Yugao had a classical beauty, and Hana had a wild beauty, at least when she didn't repress her wild side. But this girl here, Uzumaki-kun, said Venolana, putting her hand on chin. Yes, Bale-sensei? Asked Naruto, snapping to parade rest. You will run Beal swordsman style 8th form 100 times, Bale defensive style 3 times, and proper curtsy when greeting nobles of court rankings, said Venolana. Hi, sensei, said Naruto, slumping slightly. That's impressive, said Kakashi. Venolana smirked. You should how I deal out punishments when he's disrespectful, said Venolana. Naruto-kun, to defeat Neji your flames of youth must indeed be strong to overcome his faith, said Lee in awe of the younger ninja. Ino smirked slightly at Naruto. I have to admit that Naruto Baka was slightly cool in that match, said Ino. I do have to give you credit, that was pretty good of you, said Sakura with a smile. Hinata blushed. Thank you for defending my honor, Naruto-kun, said Hinata, bowing to Naruto slightly. Naruto blushed at the praise. Venolana smiled as she got up and began to walk away. She would allow her student some time to be with his friends. Besides, she had some money to collect. Might as well grab that 10 million she won over the course of 3 fights. It was best to grab it now before anything else happened. Location, Konoha. Place, stadium bet encounters. Time, 1150. Venolana smiled as she took the scroll that held her earning for the previous fights. Several people were unhappy at their losses, but this was only the beginning for Venolana. This was only seed money for projects that were to come. While she had stayed with Naruto, she had already begun plans that would help him out. While Venolana never showed it outright, she hated the evil peace system. While many of the devil's more traditional practices, such as taking human souls, firstborn sons, and female virginity, were now outlawed by the 4 Satans, it had a big workaround in the form of evil pieces. Many male devils took this as an opportunity to form harems of attractive females with 1 or 2 strong fighters. She had an evil piece set, but she never used it. In fact, it was currently locked away inside a magic box back at the Gremory estate. Her son was one of the few she knew had a devised team that worked under him as his staff. Even her own father, once evil pieces became a thing, had taken a massive harem of werewolves, succubi, and fairies as his dolls. It was a system she hoped to break. However, her marriage to Zeoticus changed all that. Following the death of the original Luphasir, the fallen angel to the Great War or Biblical War, things had been hell for devils who rose from those even fallen angels deemed to far gone. That's quite the haul, pretty lady, said a man in front of her. Venolana looked at the thug and had to guess that he worked for either a lower noble or a high-ranked merchant. I'm sorry. I don't know you, said Venolana. The man smirked. I whirled for Takashi-sama. He wants to speak with you about a business proposition, said the man. Venolana smiled. Very well, said the brunette as she pulled out a watch. I only have 10 minutes to talk, however. Location, Konoha. Place, Satyam Arena floor. Time, 1150. Sasuke looked at Gaia and allowed his Sharingan. Sasuke drew a kunai and charged at Gaia and threw a kick at her. Gaia raised her left arm, making the sand raise and block the attack. Sasuke's eyes widened as he jumped backwards. I don't remember you moving unless you're attacking, said Sasuke. Gaia glared at Sasuke. You're strong. That boy in green was the first person to land a hit on me in over 2 years. Your eyes make you much more dangerous, according to Mother. I'll kill you quickly. Sand release. Sand javelins, yelled Gaia. Several long javelins appeared and launched at Sasuke. Sasuke backpedaled before he found himself in the trees. Sasuke quickly pulled out 3 kunai and threw them at Gaia. Gaia didn't bother with actively defending since he was too far away, and her sand stopped the kunai in midair, but that was what Sasuke wanted. Gaia looked at the kunai and saw that they were attached to wire that seemed to be dripping oil of some kind. Fire release, dragon fire jutsu, yelled Sasuke as he breathed out a massive stream of fire that traveled along lines. Gaia narrowed her eyes, but quickly ran those several hand signs. Sand release, ultimate wall, yelled Gaia as the sand formed before her and turned into a wall that was nearly as tough as steel. The flames hit the wall, but seemed to just go around it, but Gaia still felt the heat. Once the flames died down, Gaia had just enough time to turn and see that her sand had stopped Sasuke from attacking her. Gaia panted in fear. No, that wasn't right. She was Sabuke no Gaia, she didn't know fear. Sasuke then started an assault that reminded her of that other boy Lee. Sasuke was fast, almost as fast as Lee with his weights off. And that Sharingan didn't help matters. Getting fed up with the constant attacks, Gaia went on the offense as she sent her sand after Sasuke. Sasuke used the kunai to cut the sand and stop it from reaching him fully, but Gaia was already prepared for the next assault, and it was thanks to Sasuke. Sand release, sand bullets, yelled Gaia. Sasuke looked down, and his eyes widened as the sand he cut quickly reformed and began to bombard him with hard pellets the size of bottle caps. Sasuke grit his teeth as he retreated up a wall, about 100 feet away. Once up top of the wall, Gaia was about to run no hand signs when something caught her attention. Jing jing. A bell? I see, thought Gaia with a small grin. Gaia quickly ran though a few hand signs. Sand release, hard armor shell, sand release all-seeing third eye, sand release, spike defenses. Sasuke watched in shock as the girl was encased inside a ball made of sand as a third eye appeared above it. No need to hold back, said Sasuke as he held out his left hand and ran those several hand signs. Lightning release, Chidori. Sasuke ran down the wall creating a grove in trance as he approached Gaia's cocoon just inches away from it. Spikes shot out of it. Thanks to the Sharingan he was able to avoid death, but still was cut up and pierced. Slightly, but he had succeeded. What is this feeling? Asked Gaia, slightly pained. She reached up and touched her shoulder. What is this? Blood, my blood. My blood. The young woman's shriek of horror was deafening to the people. As people prepared for another round to begin, white feathers began to fall from the sky as people began to get sleepy. Location, Konoha. Place, Saturdam hallways. Time, same as above. Naruto walked through the stands towards the building chakra that had been gathering since the start of Sasuke's. It wasn't noticeable at first, not because it was building up and outwards, but it seemed to grow more and more potent. The energy was coming from deep within the stadium in a place that most people wouldn't really go to. Naruto rounded a corner and saw a shinobi that was wearing a black cloak and an ANBU-style mask. His hands were in a hand sign, but also he seemed to be in a sealing circle. Naruto didn't understand all the signs in the circle, but understood that some of the seals used were for increasing jutsu range, sensor suppression, and hypnotic notions. Naruto looked at the man. What the hell are you doing? Yelled Naruto, catching the attention of the man. The man looked at Naruto. I don't have time for you, Naruto-kun. Deal with him, said the man as he went back to focusing on. Two people jumped out of the wall and charged at Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened as he went for his kunai. He managed to draw one as the shinobi on his left attacked with a kick that forced Naruto back. Naruto ducked a punch from the other man, but was left wide open as Lefty ran through hand signs and held out his hands. Say goodbye, brat. Decapitating air waves, yelled the man, unleashing a strong pressured blast at Naruto. Naruto cursed but ran through his own hand signs. Wind style, solid air wall, yelled Naruto as he blew out air that quickly solidified into a rounded glass pane that stopped the attack with only minor cracks in it. The man put his hands in a jutsu. Temple of Nirvana, said the man, and he unleashed a burst of chakra. Naruto saw the feathers and felt slightly sleepy. Quickly as possible dispelled the jutsu by flaring his chakra. He looked at the man in the mask as he rose to his feet. What have you done? Asked Naruto in horror. The man removed his mask and smirked at Naruto. I'm just doing what my master ordered me to do, Naruto-kun, said the man. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he drew his dragon sword and turned it in a reverse grip. You're dead when I get my hands on you, Kabuto. Location, Konoha. Place, Stadium Kagebox. Time, 1159. Hiruzen jumped from his seat and flared his chakra to such a point that it disrupted the genjutsu, but failed to wake up anyone below the chakra level of Jonin. Before Hiruzen had a chance to issue orders, the shinobi left of Genjumura kicked Rindo into the wall as the shinobi right of Raza pinned him to the walls using 4 kunai. Sarutobi looked at Raza and Genjumura before both men grabbed him, and Raza and Genjumura jumped with Sarutobi between them as they landed on top of a roof, as Genjumura held a kunai at the Hokage's throat. Once that happened, the duo jumped out of the Kage booth with grenades and threw them into in booth. It only took a second before they both exploded. Genjumura, Raza, you won't get away with this, growled out the old monkey. Genjumura chuckled in a way that was all too familiar. Forgive me if I have a hard time believing that, Sarutobi-sensei, said Genjumura as his regular voice took a more silken style to it, instead of his more roguish voice. Hiruzen's eyes widened as her looked at Genjumura as his eyes went from black to stilted yellow. Chapter 7, Konoha under attack. Location, Konoha. Place, Stadium. Time, 1201. Boom! Naruto was thrown through a wall by an air wave as the two sound Chunin followed after Naruto. Naruto quickly righted himself as he ran through hand signs, as he pulled his hands backwards and formed a ball of compressed heated air. Wind release, heat wave, yelled Naruto, throwing his hands forward and unleashing a blast of heated air. The burning air waves went at the Chunin, and thanks to the fact they were in the air, they had little in the way of moving out of the way. One of the Chunin managed to get out of the way by using his air tubes to blast himself out of the way, while the other was consumed by the wave and melted. Naruto went for his sword and drew it, blocking an overhead slash as the duo landed on the streets below. Naruto glared at the Chunin. This was different from any mission. This was a fight for his home. Naruto stood to his full height and charged at the Chunin. Naruto put his hands together and made 5 clones that ran ahead of him in a blocking formation as Naruto ran those hand signs. You're not going to win that easy, punk. Air wave decapitation, yelled the Chunin, unleashing his air waves at Naruto. All 5 clones vanished in a puff of smoke, but the sound Chunin didn't see Naruto and laughed, thinking that he had won their little fight now that little brat was out of the way. He would go and have fun with a few little genin. Naruto burst from the dirt with his sword, with it elongated sword with the earth gem glowing. This is my gift to Yuzubuza-sensei. Earth release, headhunter decapitation, yelled Naruto. 1. Naruto quickly cut the head off the Chunin and looked around. He looked up at the stadium and growled in annoyance. The Konoha Ninja Protectorate was clear that in the event of an invasion, all genin were to relocate the civilians to the safety of the village tunnels and act as a last line of defense in case the Jonin, Chunin, ANBU, and clans failed. However, Naruto couldn't do that as the stadium was unsecured thanks to that bastard Kabuto. Naruto pushed chakra into his legs and ran up the wall, and though the hole he was blasted out and looked around for Kabuto. Not seeing Kabuto, Naruto made his way back inside the stadium, and saw that a Chunin was over Sakura about to strike her. Naruto cursed since he wouldn't have made it in time, but she was sparred thanks to Guy-sensei intervening. Guy slammed a fist into the Chunin's chest. He seemed to push some chakra into his arm. Iron Fist style, Fist of the Novice, yelled Guy, unleashing the power, and crushed all the bones in the Chunin's body as a hole was blown in the center of his chest. Are you alright, Haruno-san? Asked Guy as he allowed the Chunin's body to fall to the ground, blood pooling from the hole in his chest. Sakura was shaking too bad to even say anything. She thought that just because she was able to disrupt the chakra, however, the Chunin that was about to kill her made her freeze in pure terror. Even during the events of Wave, she never felt like her life was in danger. Even in the second exam, she never felt any fear, but now she was feeling it. Now she was feeling the fear. Naruto raced up to Guy and Sakura and grabbed the, shaking her by her shoulders. Sakura-chan. Sakura-chan, are you okay? Yelled Naruto. Sakura snapped out of it and looked at Naruto, before nodding. We have to go after Sasuke-kun. He went after that girl on Genma-sensei's orders. She had those 2 other sand shinobi with her, the one with the fan and the guy with the puppet, said Sakura. I'm afraid I can't let you go after her, Haruno. She's much too strong for you, and as you yourself said, she has allies. You'll only get in the way during a battle. Naruto, you are to go after that girl. For whatever reason they wanted to get her out of the village. I don't know why, but until we can organize our counterattack, I need you to go after that girl and make sure she is naturalized, said Guy. 2. But Guy-sensei, started Sakura, only to stop with a glare from Guy. No buts, Haruno-san. I may not be your Jonin sensei, but I am still a Jonin and this is an order. Am I clear? Asked Guy. Hi Guy-sensei, said Sakura, looking a bit dejected. Hi Guy-sensei, said Naruto, trying not to rush to Sakura's defense, as he would have in the past. You're going to need a tracker, said Kakashi, appearing next to them. He had a bloody kunai in his hands that was also sparking lightning. Kakashi threw the kunai into a sound Jonin before taking out a fresh kunai and cutting his hand before doing a few hand signs. Summoning jutsu, Pakken! Yelled Kakashi, slamming his hand onto the ground and summoning a small dog. What is that? Asked Sakura. This is my personal summon Pakken. He may not be an Inuzuka nin dog, but he can track even better. Naruto chose 2 people to go with you as you go after the Suna shinobi, said Kakashi. Naruto nodded as he looked at the people who were going to go with him. He walked over to Tenten and released the genjutsu on her. Tenten's eyes fluttered open. She groaned for a moment. As the weapon's mistress fully opened her eyes, she looked around and was slightly confused. What happened? Asked Tenten as she looked at the kid who beat Neji. Hey kid, what's going on? Naruto glared at her for a second for calling him a kid. No time to explain. Shikamaru and I can feel you in on the way, said Naruto, before kicking Shikamaru in the stomach, making him clutch it. Damn, that hurt you, troublesome blonde. Growled out Shikamaru, sitting up. You already have an idea of what we're doing, right? Asked Naruto, not bothering to apologize for kicking his friend. Yeah, we're going after that sand chick because she freaking powerful, said Shikamaru. Guy and myself will hold down the stadium. Do not allow that girl to escape with her life, said Kakashi as he pulled up his headband. Sakura-chan, come with me, said Kurenai as she appeared with her own blood-stained head to the academy and warn Iruka and protect the children there. Hi, said Sakura. Wait, what about Hiruzenjiji? Asked Naruto. My old man isn't so feeble as to allow a few punks to get the best of him. Believe in my father, Naruto, said Asuma, taking out his smoke and throwing it at a sound ninja, making it explode. I'm going to make my way to the hospital. I guess I can come with you. You're going to need all the help you can get, said Anko, joining her friends. You all have your assignments. Move out, said Kakashi. The 4 groups split up and did as told. Location, Konoha. Place, on top of random building. Time, 1205. A barrier formed at the top of the roof, stopping the ANBU from helping their master as explosions, a massive snake summon, and fire began to spread through the village. Sand and Sound Shinobi ran rampant throughout the village, going after anyone who dared get in their way. Looting, destroying, and raping, they were no better than common bandits at the moment, and with nearly 70% of Konoha's forces at the stadium trapped in the temple of Nirvana, things looked grim for the strongest village. It broke the old man's heart to see his home, his people in such strifes. Hiruzen Raza with the eyes of not the kind elderly man, but the professor, master of 1000 jutsu. Raza, why would you do this? Our two villages have been allies since the founding days, yelled Hiruzen. The daimyo of Wind has been going out of his way to send less and less missions to us for the last 5 years. I did an inquiry and it turns out that all our missions have been sent to old friends should have noticed this and helped us, said Raza with contempt clear in his eyes. Our missions have not increased in over 10 years. Not since the end of the Third Great War, yelled Hiruzen as he had the Nara and Hyuga clans keep careful track of all mission records. Then someone is playing you for the fool, old friend, Raza looking out as he saw Sand Shinobi moving about. Orochimaru chuckled. You shouldn't worry so much, sensei. By the end of this day Konoha will be nothing but ruins, said Orochimaru. Orochimaru, you've been off the radar for almost a decade now, said Hiruzen, stating a simple fact. Why come back now of all times? Rumors, and I needed to stir the pot a bit, said Orochimaru. What do you mean stir the pot? Asked Sarutobi. Orochimaru chuckled before releasing Sarutobi and taking a few steps away from him. I have not the time nor patents to tell you, sensei. Instead I'll just kill you and be done with it, said Orochimaru. I have no intentions of leaving this village without your head, Hiruzen Dano, said Raza. Hiruzen removed his outer Hokage robe, revealing the battle attire of the old days. You will find this old man a not so easy mark, yelled Hiruzen as he drew a scroll and summoned a staff with sharpened tips at the end. Wise words, Hiruzen-sama, said Venolana, appearing next to him. But it seems that you're in need of assistance. This old man would appreciate the aid of such a young woman, said Hiruzen. Who is this woman? Asked Raza. I have no intel on her. Orochimaru raised an eyebrow seeing her. No idea. But her chakra is amazing. I'd say she's as powerful as you are, Raza-sama. A new apprentice, Sarutobi-sensei? I thought after the Sannin you'd never take another student, said Orochimaru. Hiruzen smiled. She is no student of mine. She's just a noble that has some strength, said Hiruzen. What the fuck? How did Sweet Tits get past the barrier? Yelled a red-haired girl. Venolana smiled at them. Don't make me clean up your language, young lady. I've already had to correct one Uzumaki as it is. Is rudeness a family trait? Asked Venolana. Orochimaru hid his surprise well. Tayuya along with Karen were one of the last known Uzumaki in the entire elemental nations. For this woman to be able to tell that Tayuya was an Uzumaki was telling of her strength and power. He could tell that together that he and Raza would be no match for this woman, but he had an ace up his sleeve. You never answered Tayuya-chan's question, Ojo-san, said Oakimaru with a smile. Venolana crossed her arms under her breasts. This barrier is nothing. Your talents in sealing are lacking at best and absolute trash at worst. However, it would have taken too much time to fully break it, so I decided to simply walk on it, said Venolana with a smirk that seemed dark to even Sarutobi. Oakimaru frowned. He had designed this barrier to isolate Sarutobi so that he and Raza could kill him. Originally Orochimaru planned to kill Raza and assume his role and get Hiruzen to lower his guard. The only problem with that was that even at the age of 65 Hiruzen was still the most formidable man alive. Even that fool who was one of the fourth generations of Kages would know better than to test the professor in singles combat. Kill the woman, Raza. I'll deal with Sarutobi-sensei, said Orochimaru. Raza didn't waste a second as he ran those hand signs. Golden sand release, sand burial, said Raza. As the golden sands rushed Venolana, she jumped into the air and allowed her wings to become visible as she gathered black-red energy, and formed it into a spear before throwing it at Raza. The sands formed into a shield, but the spears seemed to destroy the wall, and travel at Raza. Raza barely managed to get out the way, but the spear kept traveling until it hit the barrier. Went through said barrier and then hit the massive snake that was destroying the village, and killed it with an explosion. Raza and Orochimaru's eyes widened as they looked at the woman who was smirking. Shall we begin, Raza-chan? Said Venolana, allowing her energy to flow freely. Chapter 8. Battle of Titans. Here comes. Location, Konoha. Place, on top of a random tower. Time, 1215. Tayuya wasn't as powerful jutsu-wise as the other members of the Sound Four. She was actually the genjutsu specialist of the group and was an adept at seals. She was actually the pillar holding the formation together. Sure, each of them played a part in holding the barrier, but one part of the barrier had to be stronger than the others. Tayuya had knowledge of the barrier, but unlike the others she figured out how to make it stronger. Something she didn't even tell Orochimaru. Keeping it to herself seemed best. However, that chick just blow a hole in the barrier. Kidamaru, help me patch this fucking thing, yelled Tayuya as she pushed chakra into the area. Kidamaru did as told and pumped chakra into the barrier as well. The hole closed quickly before the ANBU could enter, As it finished repairing itself, Tayuya wondered if they had trapped the Hokage and his little sex pal, or was it the other way around. The woman was strong enough to breach the barrier with just jutsu. If Tayuya had to guess, it was a S ranked with just power alone. This was about to be a fight that could easily be the biggest of the century. Raza looked at the woman he was about to fight, and knew that he had to be on his guard with her. Originally he had dismissed her as just a really strong member of the NBU, but that was not the case. No, this woman was as dangerous as a Kage, no, maybe a Buji with just her raw power, and no telling how skilled she was. Hiruzen ran no hand signs, shocking both men. Earth release, mud dragon bombs, yelled Hiruzen as a dragon head appeared and fired several dozen mud balls at the duo. But Hiruzen wasn't done by a long shot as he ran though a second set of hand signs. Fire release, fire dragon rush. The flames quickly caught up to the balls as ignited them. Orochimaru acted quickly. Earth release, mud wall, yelled Orochimaru as he spat up mud that quickly hardened into a 3-foot thick wall and stopped the attack. My turn. Magnet release, golden impeller, yelled Raza, slamming his hands onto the ground and unleashed a massive amount of golden sand that shot spikes out at the duo of Hiruzen and Venolana. Venolana stepped forward and created a wall of destitution that easily stopped the sand. Rushing the man that tried to impale her, Venolana jumped into the air and threw a kick that Raza blocked with his sand as he covered his hand with the sand and threw a punch at her. Venolana put her hand on his and in a show of flexibility that no human should possess flipped and added the power of destruction to her heel boots and struck at Raza, only for his sand to block the attack and be destroyed. Raza threw Venolana away as she landed next to Hiruzen. Venolana held up her hands and created a spear of pod and threw it at Raza. While the attack was underpowered due to not wanting to hurt Hiruzen, it was still far stronger than what she intended it to be. Raza quickly used his sad to wrap around the spear, causing it to explode, causing and to fly everywhere. Raza took this chance to make several baseball-sized spears and throw them at the duo of Hiruzen and Venolana. Hiruzen ran no hand signs and opened his mouth before releasing a streak of searing hot flames that stopped the sand in its tracks, melting it down, only for Raza to recover it. This made Venolana frown. Are you done warming up now, Bale-san? Asked Hiruzen. Venolana rolled her shoulders before getting into a stance that looked like it was the leaping tiger. I'll admit I haven't faced someone like Raza-sama in a long time, but he's nothing I can't handle easily enough, said Venolana with a small smirk as her aura flared. The only thing that is going to disappointment is that my dress will get covered in sand and dirt. Orochimaru, it'd be best if you use that jutsu now, growled Raza. Fear was no stranger to the man who had fought in the Third Shinobi War, fought the demon sand beast, and even went to battle with the Fourth Raikage. Indeed, Fear was an old friend, but this wasn't Fear that was currently gripping his heart. No, this woman brought forth Fear's elder sibling. The right hand of death was terror incarnate. I agree, Razadano. Make sure they don't try anything until I'm ready, said Orochimaru as he summoned 3 coffins. Hiruzen knew instantly what jutsu he was using. Hiruzen charged at Orochimaru, running though hand signs to try and disrupt the jutsu. I won't let you summon them, Orochimaru, yelled Sarutobi. As Hiruzen was meters away from Orochimaru, he was forced to jump away as sand crashed down where he was supposed to be. Just as Sarutobi jumped away, the 3 coffins opened up, revealing 3 people. 2 men and 1 woman. The first man was a tall man with tan skin and dark eyes. He had waist-length black hair typically styled in a center-parted fringe that framed his face. He wore the standard shinobi dress of his era, consisting of dark red armor worn over a simple black suit with sandals, and a Konoha headband on his head. Senju Harashima, the first Hokage of Konoha. The second man was a fair-skinned man with silver, shaggy hair, and red eyes. He had 3 red markings on his face, 1 under each of his eyes and 1 on his chin. He wore blue armor with a distinctive white fur collar over a simple black suit. This armor was constructed from numerous metal plates, formed into multiple protective guards along his body. Beneath his shoulder armor he wore 2 bands on each arm, and a hapuri in place of the more traditional headband. Senju Tobirama, the second Hokage and younger brother to the first Hokage. Finally was the woman, and probably the most dangerous person in the group summoned, not because of who she was, rather what she represented. She had a slender, but feminine build with large C-cup breasts, fair skin, violet eyes, and the common Uzumaki red hair. It reached her ankles, waist in the anime, with shoulder-length strands that framed both sides of her face and a black clip that parts her hair to the left. She wore the traditional Konoha Jonin uniform with a black headband. This was Uzumaki Kushina, candidate for the seat of 4th Hokage, former jailer of the Kyuubi and Naruto's mother. Venolana went rigid, feeling their power. Up until now no one from this world could even be considered a mid-class devil, but here were 3 people that could be considered in the lower levels of high-class devils. The woman herself was exuding an aura that was comparable to her own. Hey, this isn't a pure lance, said Tobirama, looking around. Great, my own jutsu used against me. How embarrassing. I told you not to dabble in the evil side of jutsu, brother, said Hashirama. It can't be helped at this, it looks like we've returned to the land of the living, said Hiroshima as his ears picked up the sounds of battle. Hey, old monkey, said Kushina, smiling at Hiruzen. Kushina-chan, Tobirama-sensei, Hiroshima-sensei, said Hiruzen with tears in his eyes. So I take it this young woman is the 4th Hokage then, said Hashirama looking at Kushina. She looks a lot like Mito-chan. Oh, you know Mito Bacon? Asked Kushina with a smile. Hiroshima laughed. Mito-chan was my wife. Even though it was an arranged marriage, I adored her to no ends, said Hiroshima. You didn't answer my brother's question, girl. Are you the fourth Hokage? Asked Tobarama, slightly annoyed at the girl for ignoring her predecessor. Kushina glared at Tobarama. No, I'm not. I was the wife of Minato-kun, however I was considered to be one of the strongest kunoichi in my generation. Isn't that right, Orochi-sensei? Said Kushina, turning her eyes to Orochimaru. Orochimaru chuckled. That is correct, Kushina-chan. I also remember when Anko-chan asked you to teach her how to use kunai. Funny. I didn't even know Namikaze-san was married, said Raza, raising an eyebrow. It was a secret that many of us kept. Even after I left Konoha I kept it. I guess because of some kind of misplaced familial type love I had left for my first student Kushina-chan. The people who were in the know were Satobi-sensei, Tsunade-chan, Jiraiya, Kakashi-kun, Shizen-chan, and Biwako-ka-san, said Orochimaru. You have no right to call her that anymore, yelled Hiruzen. I think you struck a nerve, Orochimaru-san, said Raza. Orochimaru gained a look of sadness for a second, a blink and you'd miss it moment, but he quickly hid it. I'm sorry, sensei, but Biwako was the mother I never had, said Orochimaru. Even so, Kushina was still considered the strongest woman of her generation. I see. Then he must have been powerful to have such a woman as yourself on his arm, said Tobarama. As much fun as it is to listen to you talk, I'd rather get this fight on the way, said Orochimaru. Wait 1 minute, Orochimaru-sensei, said Kushina. Orochimaru chuckled. Anything for you, my dear Kushina-chan, said the snake Sannin. Hiruzen-sama, what happened to my son? What happened to Naruto? Asked Kushina. He grew up to be a fine young of the most promising genin we currently have, said Hiruzen. Kushina smiled as a tear fell from her eye. That's all I wanted to hear, said Kushina. Orochimaru threw 3 kunai into the backs of the reanimated shinobi as their eyes became white. The duo of Hiruzen and Venolana knew that the real battle had just begun. Location: forests surrounding Konoha. Place: forests. Time: same as with Venolana and Hiruzen. Naruto, Tenten, and Shikamaru raced through the trees going after Sasuke and the Suna team. It took all of 5 minutes to explain the situation to Tenten. Tenten growled in annoyance as her home was attacked. Tenten was one of the victims of the Kyuubi attack, not so much that she was harmed, but her mother and father died in the line of duty, leaving her to be raised by her aunt and uncle. The Higurashi weapons blacksmiths of Konoha, a duo known for not only their masterful craftsmanship, but quality of their items. 1. Now that you're aware of the situation, can I count on you, Tenten-san? Asked Naruto. Hi, said Tenten before smirking and fingering a scroll on her side. Besides, I get a chance to pay that bitch back. Don't get wrapped up in revenge. Our objective is to capture Gaia and back up Sasuke, said Naruto. Tenten grit her teeth. I know, but if I get the chance, started Tenten. You will fall back and leave her to me, said Naruto, getting Tenten to glare at him. You're not the type of fighter that can win a fight with a wind user. I can. Shikamaru can defeat her too, but not you. If anything, you can fight her brother, Troublesome Blonde. Yeah, I can beat her, but I've already used up most of my chakra from before, said Shikamaru as he caught a black pill. An overboost pill? Asked Shikamaru. I only have 3 of them and I'm going to need the other 2. Gaia is strong and currently we have about the same amount of chakra. The overboost will give me a 30% chakra boost for about 10 minutes. After that I'm going to need a medic to heal me, said Naruto. I know basic medical jutsu, said Tenten. That's good. If you can keep my heart from stopping in that time frame, I would appropriate, said Naruto. What, you plan on eating 2 of them? Asked Shikamaru. 1 is enough to put you out of action for a month at least, and 2 is going to put me down much longer, if not kill me if I'm not careful, said Naruto. You still haven't said what you're going to do with 2 of those pills, Naruto, said Shikamaru with a glare. Hopefully nothing, but if I need to I'm going to use them and beat Gaia to within an inch of her life. What I plan on doing is ending this fight, said Naruto, clothing his fist. Chapter 9. Prep for the next battle. Location: outskirts of Konoha. Place: forests. Time: 1230. Uchiha Sasuke wouldn't call himself arrogant. He would call himself prideful. He was the strongest genin of his class. No one from his class was as strong as he was. Sure, that Lee kid was pretty strong, but Sasuke was game for someone to learn from. He knew that his family had a stigma when it came to the Sharingan, and use of it when it came to allies, but what was a stigma when it came to power? And power was everything to the last Uchiha. His brother, Itachi, had mastered the Sharingan before he was 13, and once it was mastered he used it rarely. He was called the strongest Uchiha since Madara. Sasuke idolized his big brother. Even to this day he still idolized his brother, but he wanted to kill him, to avenge his mother, father, and the rest of the clan. Aside from the jutsu Kakashi taught him, he learned a few jutsu that members of the Konoha police force used. He stopped on a branch and jumped straight up as 3 puppets appeared around him, one of them slashing at him. Sasuke looked at the puppets with trepidation. He had never seen something like this before, and he was sure that he had seen enough to know what was happening. All 3 of them were sword-using puppets. One puppet opened its mouth and blew out a stream of flames. Sasuke countered with a fireball as he drew 2 kunai and blocked a sword slash. He did a side flip and cut the head off of one of the puppets, making it fall. Sasuke righted himself as he ran no hand signs. Lightning release, Hound Hunter! Yelled Sasuke as he created 3 wolf-shaped lighting beasts as they charged at the other 2 puppets and discharged, unleashing their stored chakra and destroyed the puppets. Sasuke looked at the puppets. While he didn't know much about puppetry, he knew that the puppet master had to be close that had to use them. Sasuke activated his Sharingan and looked around. He didn't see anyone within his 100-meter range, but he did see a few trapped seals. He frowned, realizing that these weren't manned and were only as strong as a genin. Decoys? What a waste of my time, said Sasuke as he resumed the chase of the Suna siblings. Location, outskirts of Konoha. Place, forests. Time, same time as above. Kankuro looked behind him and frowned, making Temari look at him as he stopped. He pulled off his puppet from his back. Kankuro? Asked Temari. My puppet protection seals were defeated, said Kankuro, making Temari's eyes go wide. The puppet protection was a seal that Kankuro had made with the help of Lady Chico, and while it wasn't perfect, it was still surprising to hear that they were destroyed, considering that it was still in its testing phase as far as she knew. What are you planning? Asked Temari, fear edging into her voice. We're about a mile out from the village. Gaia still needs at least 10 minutes to recover, before she can fight. Once she unleashes Shikaku, I need you two to get away. It is a brother's job to protect his sisters after all, said Kankuro. Kankuro, said Gaia, looking at her brother as Temari took her away. As they left, Gaia felt sadness. Why did she feel such a useless emotion? Sadness never helped her. It didn't help her in her first mission, and it didn't help her during her fight. Location, outskirts of Konoha. Place, forests. Time, same as above. Naruto, Tenten, and Shikamaru ran through the trees trying to catch up to Sasuke and the Suna siblings. Or at least that was the plan. Pucken stopped as he sniffed the air. Heads up, said the little pug. We got 3 in front of us. Naruto drew the dragon sword, Tenten to Tonfa, and Shikamaru began to think up battle plans. Within 100 feet of their targets they saw Zaku, Kin, and Dosu waiting up ahead, but they didn't look like they were there to fight. The trio of Konoha shinobi stopped before them at a respectable 25 feet away from them. Wait, we're not here to fight, said Kin, raising her hands. What makes you think we're going to fall for that? Asked Naruto, about to unleash an attack. Dosu raised his right hand slowly, before he took off his sound gauntlet. Kin took her belt pouch and threw it to the ground. Zaku a bit reluctantly used the sepkale seal in his wristbands that stopped the flow of chakra to his wind tubes. We are here to surrender to you, said Dosu. What do you mean surrender? Asked Naruto. We don't want to fight you. We don't even want to be with the Sound Village anymore, said Kin. Orochimaru would have killed us for failing as we did. We ran before the battle began, said Zaku. We don't have time to secure you guys for processing. We need to go after the Sand siblings, said Naruto. Then follow us. The Sand siblings were given a specific route to follow. We were to act as their rear guard in case anything happened, said Dosu as he used his single eye to look over the Konoha shinobi. Clearly Orochimaru was smarter than I thought he was. Do you really think we'd trust you guys after attacking our village? Yelled Tenten. Dosu looked at Naruto. Trust us or don't, but know that Konoha are the only ones who can protect us from Orochimaru, said Dosu. It's up to you, Naruto. Kakashi and Guy put you in charge of this team, said Pucken. Naruto thought about it for a few seconds. If they know a route to get to the Suna siblings, then we need to take it, said Naruto. I hope you're right about this, Naruto, said Shikamaru. Me too, Shikamaru, said Naruto as he looked at the former Sound trio. Rearm yourselves. We may need your help. The former Sound ninja re-equipped themselves, preparing for combat against former comrades. Dosu, take us to the route, said Naruto. And don't give me a reason to kill you, said Naruto. Follow us, said Dosu. The trio of Konoha shinobi and one summoned Nin dog followed after the trio of former Sound ninja. The Konoha shinobi were on a crash course with the Queen of Sands. What if Neglected Naruto fall in love with Venolana? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.